Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gina Marie Agdarian. I am the author of The Letters in the Old House and The Faceless Woman, both available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle. I will have a link to purchase both books in the description below. So today is another episode of Book Talk. If you're new here, this is a series where I talk about a book that I recently read, what I liked, what I didn't like, and ultimately help you determine if you might like to read this book. So today I'm talking about House of Lies by Laura Ling Brown, and I had so badly wanted to read this book for so long. I was so excited about this book, and it fell flat for me. It wasn't horrible, but there were just so many things in this book that I couldn't ignore that made me nuts as I was reading it. I did read it fairly quickly, but it just, the premise was great, but it's still, I'll explain. So the story centers around a woman named Maya who is returning to Princeton University. Most of the story takes place in Princeton or in New York City. So, because if you're not, I'm from New Jersey, so Princeton is like about an hour and a half away from New York City. So there's a lot of back and forth there. And so Maya is returning to Princeton for a reunion as well as her sister's college graduation from Princeton, her sister Naomi. Unfortunately, Naomi passes away right before her graduation. So it's very sad. And then Maya is kind of trying to figure out, okay, well, what happened to her and who did this and was she murdered? And the police are like, well, we're not ruling anything out right now and all that. So Maya had belonged to a secret society and in this book belongs to a secret society. And she is in this like supper club, dinner club, eating club. I'm not quite sure. I have no idea, but it's called the Sterling Club. And it's something where you have to be like asked to join and you have to be initiated and da 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 da. And of course, it's very timely with what's going on currently at the recording of this video with he who shall not be named, with those files and all of the very powerful people that are named in those files and involved. And it's very much the case in this book as well, where it's borderline, actually not borderline, it's pretty much dangerous being in this club. So she's trying to figure out who murdered her sister, and that's kind of what the premise of the book is about. And it goes back and forth between when Maya was in college and then Naomi in the months leading up to her death. And then the present with Maya trying to figure out what's going on with Naomi. Now, a couple of problems I had with this book. Number one, this author went to Princeton University. And while she does say that she's not, throwing under the Princeton under the bus or anything like that, she basically is saying like, oh no, this is like all made up. But she's obviously very bright to have gone to Princeton. If you went to Princeton, why are you throwing your alma mater under the bus? Even if it's a completely made up story. I don't think I would not have done this. I would not have written a book naming my own alma mater. And even though I'm saying, oh, this is completely made up, it read very, very true. Like this is definitely something that could happen. And that I just kind of had a problem with. You were lucky enough, blessed enough, smart enough to have gone to an Ivy League school, and now you're throwing them under the bus. So unless you have beef with the university, that's not something I would have really necessarily have done. Second issue I had is that, and I read this on Goodreads too. I always try to like see what other people say about the book after I read it, is that the voices all sound the same to me in the book. So Naomi and Maya basically felt like the same person, and I kept getting so confused with who was who and what was going on with this person and that person. It just felt like the chapters, because it toggled back and forth between the two women, it just kind of felt like I didn't know whose story I was reading, because they just sounded the same to me. They were, in my opinion and in my mind, just the same person, and it didn't feel like they had different voices. My other issue, and some may disagree with me on this, is this author wanted so badly for this book to be a teachable moment for so many people. The author is a woman of color, and she basically almost wanted to make this book completely about racism, even though it has nothing to do with racism. The book has nothing to do with racism itself. I have read many books by authors where the book and the novel does center around racism, or there are racist characters who have a point in the plot. Most recently, I've read The Yellow Wife by Sadiqa Johnson. That was an excellent book about slavery. Obviously, racism was a very central theme in that book, and all very warranted. She threw so much racism in this book that it was like being clobbed over the head with racist. Almost every white person in this book makes a passive aggressive racist comment or joke, and I'm like, people, especially in the New York, New Jersey area, yes, of course there are exceptions. People don't speak that way. It's a very diverse area. And as a white woman, I would never in my wildest dreams say any of the stuff that these characters said that were racist, or any of the microaggressions or anything like that. And it just bothered me so badly because the racist characters were just racist just for the hell of it, not because it moved the plot along or there was a point to it in the plot. And even the police, like there was one scene, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but there's one scene where the police in New York City are laughing at somebody, and I'm like, the situation, yes, of course, anything can happen, but police wear body cameras, and if something like that happened and a complaint was lodged, they would go back to the body cameras and review exactly what happened. It was so like, she stereotyped every single white person and every single person of authority into making them just racist jerks that with absolutely no redeemable qualities. I don't feel that any of the characters were likable. The story was good and it had potential, and that's why I'm giving it a 3 and not like a 2 or a 1. But it really just was grinding my gears, because if she wanted this to be a book about racism, which it really wasn't, then she should have changed the entire theme and done something, like I said, with what Sadiqa Johnson has done with her books. And she's written many books about women of color and racism, and created such beautiful characters and great stories. It tried to be something that it wasn't, and it didn't resonate with me. I didn't really feel any connection to any of the characters. And so that's how I felt about it. And like I said, as somebody who lives in New Jersey, right outside of New York City, somebody who's had friends of all different colors and religions and everything over the course of my life, like it was just, I didn't appreciate the stereotyping of literally every single white person in this book there with absolutely no redeeming qualities. It was bad. So sadly, I don't recommend this book. Like I said, I am giving it a 3 out of 5. You read it at your own risk. Goodreads, a lot of people felt the same way. So anyway, Society of Lies by Laura Ling Brown. Let me know in the comments if you've read this book or if you plan to read this book despite my review. And as always, guys, happy reading.